your most recent album, Song, was released by Decca Classics, and you have songs by Mendelssohn, Samuel Coleridge Taylor. One of my favorite, just songs ever, "Say a Little Prayer for You" by Burt Bacharach.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness, that's like everyone who has a version of that song. You could just listen to it on repeat 1,000 times. Like Aretha Franklin's great version of it,
Yeah.
Dionne Warwick's incredible rendition of it, and then also listen to your recording of it. It's just like, man, this is such a great tune, and it's
It's
amazing.
a
No, go ahead.
yeah, it's a really, really, really good song, I think. And I always um yeah, I've had that in my um head and in my ear for a while, and so it was nice to make my own version. But there are some really beautiful other versions. There's Leanne La Havas. She
Yeah,
has a live version of this song.
and she's playing
She,
guitar on that version too, right? Isn't she playing guitar and
yeah,
singing? Yeah,
exactly. This is
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, that is, someone like a songwriter like Burt Bacharach, it's like that guy's just spinning gold. He has so many amazing songs, and if you're a good musician, you can really milk a lot of from those tunes.
hmm
So I just love your album too, because this is your third album, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And I love how you've mixed, things that you wouldn't expect to be next to each other on that album, like especially like the Coleridge Taylor next to the Mendelssohn, next to the Burt Bacharach. It's just great. And I'd love to see, you know, presentations like that where everything's not just siloed and segmented, but you're just saying like these are a bunch of great songs and it doesn't really matter what genre it's from. Can you just speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, it was really enjoyable actually to put together this album. It was very much um, led by the collaborations in a way. I was collaborating with lots of different, a variety of different musicians and instrumentalists, and so that I had some things for cello ensemble, for example, and I made some arrangements of Bach for that. Some things with cello and piano, with one with a jazz pianist, one with my sister who's a classical pianist, and so we have Crimea River and some other improvisations, but then also the Mendelssohn songs, as you mentioned, and Messiaen, a movement from the quartet for the end of time. And so I was just really, it was a really, really enjoyable process, and one where more ideas sort of came throughout the process of recording, which is different to how I've done things before, where I will have, planned exactly what I'm going to record and when and where. This one sort of happened a bit more over time. And yeah, it's just a collection of some of my favorite music.
And you're doing the five preludes, which is on that album. You're doing that in Philly for your Philly program, right?
Yes, I will
Yes.
be by
Yeah.
Edmund Finnis. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
beautiful. Set of five pieces that were written for me a few years ago. Yeah, really, really sensitively written for the cello.
Yeah. I think that this will be the Philadelphia premiere of that. I don't think anyone else has performed that. And as you said, it was written for you, so I think it's really appropriate that the Philadelphia audience will be able to hear that and then go home and buy the album, and that'll be great.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Wonderful.
So this will be your second time in Philly. Is there anything that you're really looking forward to that you maybe didn't get to the first time around?
Yeah, it's actually my third time. It
Okay.
will be. So I was there with the orchestra last year, and then
Mhm.
the Sonata before that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to coming back. I like the fact that it's a city that one can walk around.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, yeah, you could take, you could walk all day and see so much and try some really, really nice food, and things like that. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm not sure how long I'll be in the city, but hopefully at least enough. I'll have at least enough to me to explore.
I also saw you're doing Gaspar Casado's Suite for Solo Cello, and I feel like he's going through kind of like a renaissance or a resurgence. Like his
Yeah,
music is kind of being rediscovered.
yeah. I'm closing the program with this
Hmm.
solo suite in three movements. I think it's a really fabulous piece and a really enjoyable way to end the program as well. He's written a lot. He was a cellist, so he's written a lot for the cello, um, in particular. And there are some wonderful recordings of him playing as a cellist, for example, in a piano trio with Manu
Hmm.
um, and other things like that. But yeah, it's mostly music in the Spanish style, or at least with heavy Spanish influence. And it's wonderfully colorful and dramatic, and really really enjoyable.
Can you talk about the Simcock and the Brouwer a little bit, and what maybe audiences can expect?
Yeah, so Gwilym Simcock is a jazz pianist, and he wrote a piece called Prayer for the Senses for me for solo cello. I think about 3 years ago, it was commissioned by the Royal Academy of Music, and they did this sort of like 200 pieces series. I've always really really loved Gwilym's playing and his music, mostly in a jazz context, and so I was really excited at the prospect of him writing a piece for me, which builds in such a powerful way. It has a wonderful shape to it, and groovy at times, and incredibly sensitive at others, and so it has all the variety of the instrument, and so I really really enjoyed playing that. And then Leo Brouwer is a Cuban composer, and was a guitarist as well, and so he's written mostly music for guitar, and so I got to know his music through. I live with a Brazilian guitarist, so I got to know a lot of classical guitar music, and particularly Brouwer's guitar sonatas. And so in the lockdown, I commissioned a sonata for cello and guitar, which I've played with my friend, and a sonata for solo cello, and it has this wonderful mix of music that sounds very ancient, and so you have this really sort of like weighty nostalgia with also sort of really alive intensity and colorfulness. And he writes in quite a unique way, and there's lots of returning themes, so you have the feeling by the end that you're really really familiar somehow with this world that he's created. And it's been wonderful to study this piece and perform it.
You know, you were doing a lot of stuff during lockdown. I remember seeing some recordings that you were doing with the guitarists. You're doing commissions. What was your mindset during that time? Were you like, oh, this is a perfect, like, I'm not touring, I have plenty of time to practice and, think about other things. What was going on?
Yeah, I mean, it went through phases. I think I suppose one of the difficulties about that time I found was the not knowing how long it would last, kind of thing. So when I first went home, I was staying in Nottingham for the whole lockdown with my siblings and my parents. And when I first went home, I think I packed a suitcase for like a week or so. 2 weeks, ended up staying 3 or 4 months. And so I went through phases of motivation and not having as much, which I think is natural in that environment. But I was a student at the time at the Royal Academy of Music, and so I had weekly cello lessons on Zoom, and then we also had like a class where we would play for each other with my classmates. So there was this sort of constant structure and focus on development still continued, which I was really grateful for, because without concerts, it was difficult to find that sort of like regular reason to do it, kind of thing. But I did also, with the time that I had, I spent a lot of time exploring music as sort of openly and as freely as possible, whilst maintaining the structure of practice. And so I did a lot of arranging and composing and commissioning and just exploring lots of music, which I have continued to do and always have loved to do. But in that time, I especially had the time to do it really freely, without the sort of the need for an end goal or something to present. So it felt very, very open, I think, in that sense.
Yeah, and I'm curious, if you contrast that experience with what your life is like now, where you're, traveling a lot, doing a lot of performances, going to festivals, doing, you have your album that you just released, so you're doing a lot of recording sessions, I imagine. How do you recharge yourself? How do you kind of either take care of yourself or stay focused? I think for a lot of folks who, are either going from London to LA to New York, and then, you're doing this tour, this recital tour around the States. How are you kind of staying stable yourself, you know?
Yeah, it's tough because also I which I think is true of a lot of musicians. I'm very obsessed with what I do,
Mhm.
and I find the feeling of exploring music and playing and performing and all of that very very wonderful and very addictive, and I love it. And so um, sometimes I have to remind myself also to take time off because it's not necessarily the first instinct if I have a bit of um, free time, if that
Mhm.
um, makes sense. But yeah, it goes in phases of touring a lot, and then I like to take um, time either to learn lots of new repertoire and have that freedom, or a genuine break from the cello occasionally.
Is that break like you're not looking at the cello? You don't even want to hear a cello? Like, what does that
Usually
break
from
look like?
usually from like from the 24th of December to New Year, so like over Christmas period,
Okay.
it's like 6 days or something. I usually don't practice the cello. I might read some chamber music for fun and things like that, but I make um, a sort of conscious effort not to practice on those days. And anyway, it's easy to do around that Christmas time because I'm surrounded by family and games and food and all those other wonderful things. But yeah, other than that, throughout the year, I don't take time from it because yeah, it's a thing that needs daily attention and care. Um, and so yeah, I'm happy to do that every day.
Yeah. I maybe I'm mistaken here, but have you switched instruments in the past few years?
Yeah, probably about 3 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
So
yeah,
what are you playing on now?
I'm playing on a Matteo Goffrilla
Okay.
cello, and before I was playing on an Amati.
Okay.
Um,
So I guess the
yes.
Philadelphia audience will hear you now on a different instrument. Can you tell us a little bit about the most recent acquisition?
Yeah, it's an incredible cello, and I'm really glad and happy and excited to be playing on it because it has such a wonderful uh, range of possibilities with the sound. And the actual character, I guess the core character of the sound is um, very warm and deep and earthy. And that's the side of the cello that I've always enjoyed, or the quality in cellos um, that I look for. And it has this wonderful roundness and support, even right to the top of the instrument. And so um, it always feels, yeah, like it has this inner quality and inner intensity, which I really enjoy having with me.
It's a fantastic, fantastic instrument. Loved hearing you playing it at the proms. I'm sure the audience in Philadelphia is going to be completely blown away. Like I said, the concert's sold out for November 7th at 7:30. That's a Tuesday. Sheku, I really appreciate the time that you've cut out of your busy schedule for us to
It's
talk
a
about
massive
this.
pleasure.
No, this my pleasure. So thank you again. The concert's going to be at Perlman in the Kimmel Center in Philadelphia, presented by the Philadelphia Chamber Music Society. 7:30 p.m. Sheku, thank you so much.
Massive pleasure. Thank you so much.